Well, Douglas Murray, he's a Renaissance man, quite frankly. He's a best-selling author. He's an award-winning journalist. He's based in Britain. He's the associate editor of The Spectator, and he has written regularly for publications like the Wall Street Journal, which I read cover to cover every single day, the Times, the National Review. His books include a really significant book titled The Strange Death of Europe. And I would say incidentally, or maybe not incidentally, that this book was almost 20 weeks on the Sunday Times bestseller list, and it was the number one bestseller in nonfiction. That's an incredible barrier to overcome, to become number one in nonfiction. And his latest book, and that's the book that I want to spend most of my time on today, is titled The Madness of Crowds, Gender, Race, Identity. And I want to start the discussion with Douglas Murray on that very subject. Douglas, it is wonderful to have you on Hank Unplugged.
Well, it's a great pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
I wonder if you can elaborate on the Marxist foundations of identity politics and particularly intersectionality.
Yes. One of the things I say that is most interesting in this is that there are very clear substructures we can now identify. One of them is, as I say, the Marxist substructure, which is underneath all of what I'm describing in this book. This isn't to say that everybody who follows this is a Marxist. A lot of people follow it totally unknowingly. But that there is a Marxist interpretation of history, and indeed a Marxist interpretation of individuals, which is clearly running underneath a lot of this. It is, among other things, the interpretation of life through almost solely through the lens of power. Who has power, how you can acquire it from them, and how it could be more equitably distributed. These are deeply Marxist views to start from, and they have, as I say, interwoven throughout the intersectionalist version of understanding our societies. There's a lot more. One of them is the point I make, that I trace some of the almost unreadable, but nevertheless I had to read them, post-Marxist and neo-Marxist writers from the latter half of the 20th century, who, as communism was falling apart, started to realize that they had to come up with a new way of understanding society. And the way they come up with is to say, look, the working class in countries like America fundamentally let us down. They never turned up for the revolution in significant enough numbers. So this doesn't mean, and it's always important to remember this, the Marxists never think that failure of their project means that the project is a failure. It simply means that we've got to find a new way to make it work, and it will one day. The people who pushed this in the latter half of the last century, among other things, go through this by saying, because the working class let us down, we must now look for new client groups. And we must draw on, and they are completely frank about this, and I quote them, we must, for instance, draw on sexual minorities, we must draw on women as a group, and we must draw on racial minorities. And these people, these groupings, will be the new vanguard who will this time successfully bring about the Marxist society that these people would like. As I say, a lot of people, particularly, students who've just unfortunately been indoctrinated on American campuses, don't know this is what they've imbibed. But it's perfectly possible, and we all know examples in the world of ideas, of people who've simply drunk from wells deeper than they know.
That's absolutely right.